The Taming of the Shrew, Part 2, The Marriage and After. The bride was ready, the guests were assembled, but the bridegroom still tarried. Petruchio intended to teach Katherine a severe lesson. She had never shown the slightest consideration for anyone else. Her proud, overbearing nature had always carried everything before it, and her violent temper had quelled any attempt at argument. But in Petruchio she had met her match. It was his aim to humble her pride thoroughly, and to show her how unpleasant it is for others to have to live with a person who is perpetually flying into a passion. The first humiliation to Katherine was the lateness of the bridegroom's arrival, but still more mortifying to her pride, when he did at last appear, was the extraordinary array in which he had chosen to attire himself. His hat was new, but his jerkin was old, and his breeches had been turned 3 times. His boots were not a pair, one was buckled, the other laced, and he had taken out of the town armoury a rusty old sword with a broken hilt. His horse was a poor wretched creature, scarcely able to hobble, and the rotten harness was pieced together with packthread. His servant, Grumio, was equipped in the same fashion, all odds and ends, a linen stocking on one leg and a woolen one on the other, guarded with red and blue list, an old hat with a tattered rag of a feather. In fact, he was a perfect guy in dress, not like a Christian footboy or a gentleman's lackey. Katherine had already started for the church when Petruchio came rushing in, demanding his bride. He declined to give any explanation of his delay, and when Baptista and the other gentlemen begged him to put on more becoming wedding garments, he flatly refused. Kate was to be married to him, and not to his clothes, he declared, and off he hurried to the church. There he behaved in such a strange, mad fashion that the guests were scandalized and the bride was perfectly terrified. He cuffed the clergyman who was marrying them, called for a glass of wine, drank it noisily, and then threw the dregs in the old sexton's face, giving as his only reason that his beard seemed to him thin and hungry. When they got back to the house after the wedding, things went no better. Baptista had prepared a great feast in honour of the occasion, but Petruchio refused to stay and share it, and announced that he must depart at once. Entreaties were of no avail, and even Katherine was refused when she joined her voice to the others. "Nay, then, do what you like," she cried indignantly. "I will not go today, nor tomorrow, not till I please myself. The door is open, sir, there lies your way. You had better be moving before your boots grow old. As for me, I shall not go till I please myself. A nice surly husband you are likely to prove, if this is the way you begin." "Oh, Kate, content thee, prithee, do not be angry." "I will be angry. Father, be quiet. He shall stay my leisure. Gentlemen, forward to the bridal dinner. I see a woman may be made a fool if she has not spirit to resist." "They shall go forward, Kate, at thy command," said Petruchio. "Obey the bride, that you attend on her, go to the feast, revel, be mad and merry, or go hang yourselves. But as for my bonny Kate, she must go with me. Nay, look not big, nor stamp, nor stare, nor fret. I will be master of what is mine own. She is my goods, my chattels, my everything, and here she stands, touch her whoever dare. Fear not, sweet wife, they shall not touch thee, Kate." And, making belief that they were beset with thieves, Petruchio shouted to his manservant Grumio to come and help rescue his mistress, and so dragged Katherine reluctantly away. The wedding journey was unpleasant. Katherine's horse fell with her in one of the muddiest places, and Petruchio left her to struggle free by herself, while he belaboured Grumio heartily because her horse had stumbled. Katherine had to wade through the mire to pray for mercy for the man before her husband would leave off beating him. Arrived at his country house, Petruchio had all the other servants assembled, and then stormed at them roundly because nothing was right. Katherine had again to intercede, and she tried to point out that they were not to blame, but the angry master would listen to no excuses. Supper was brought, but Petruchio pretended it was badly cooked, and threw the meat about all over the place, refusing to let his wife taste a morsel. She was now really hungry, and would gladly have eaten the food he threw away. But Petruchio intended that she should be much more hungry and submissive before he allowed her anything to eat. She was also very tired, but he took care she should get no sleep that night. He tossed about the furniture in the room, finding fault with everything, and all this was done with the pretence that it was out of loving care for her own comfort. By the following day Katherine felt almost famished. She implored Grumio to go and fetch her something to eat. She did not mind what it was so long as it was wholesome food. The man tantalized her for some time by suggesting one dish after another, any one of which she would gladly have accepted, and finally ended by saying impertinently he could fetch her some mustard without any beef. At that moment Petruchio entered, bringing some meat which he said he had himself prepared for her. "I am sure, sweet Kate, this kindness merits thanks. What, not a word? Nay, then, you do not like it, and all my pains are of no use. Here, take away this dish." "I pray you let it stand," said Katherine. "The poorest service is repaid with thanks, and so shall mine be before you touch the meat," said Petruchio. "I thank you, sir," Katherine compelled her proud lips to murmur, for indeed she was nearly starving, and could not endure to see the food carried away untouched. "Now, my honey love," continued Petruchio, who was always most affectionate in his speech, and pretended that everything he did was out of devotion to his wife, "we will return to your father's house, decked out as bravely as the best, in gay apparel." And, scarcely allowing her a moment in which to snatch a morsel of food, he ordered in the tailor and haberdasher, who had been preparing some fine new clothes. But, as usual, nothing pleased him. "Here is the cap your worship bespoke," said the haberdasher. "Why, this was moulded on a porringer, a velvet dish!" exclaimed Petruchio with an air of disgust. "It's a cockle or a walnut shell, a toy, a baby's cap. Away with it! Come, let me have a bigger." "I'll have no bigger," declared Katherine. "This suits the present style, and gentlewomen wear such caps as these." "When you are gentle you shall have one too, and not till then," said Petruchio in rather a meaning voice. Katherine's old spirit blazed up again at this rebuke, but the only notice Petruchio took of her angry words was to pretend to think she was agreeing with him in his abuse of the cap. Then he ordered the tailor to produce the gown. "Oh, heavens, what silly style of fluff is here?" he cried in horror. "What's this, a sleeve? It's like a demi-cannon. What, up and down, carved like an apple-tart? Here's snip and nip, and cut and slish and slash, like a censer in a barber's shop. Why, what in the name of evil, tailor, do you call this?" "You bade me make it well and properly according to the fashion and the time," said the tailor. "Marry, so I did, but, if you remember, I did not bid you mar it to the time. Come, be off, I'll none of it. Hence, make the best of it you can." "I never saw a better fashioned gown," said Katherine. "More quaint, more pleasing, nor more praiseworthy. I suppose you mean to make a puppet of me." "Why, true, he means to make a puppet of you," said Petruchio, wilfully mistaking to whom she spoke. "She says your worship means to make a puppet of her," explained the tailor. But Petruchio would listen to no reason or argument, and sent the tailor away in the most peremptory manner, though privately the man was told he would be paid for the gown, and that he was not to be offended at Petruchio's hasty words. "Well, come, my Kate, we will go to your father's house even in this honest mean raiment," said Petruchio. "After all, fine clothes are of no importance. Is the jay more precious than the lark because his feathers are more beautiful? Oh no, good Kate, neither are you any the worse for this mean array. If you feel ashamed about it, lay the blame on me, and so be cheerful. Come, we will go at once to feast and amuse ourselves at your father's house. Let me see, I think it is now about 7 o'clock. We shall easily get there by dinner time." Katherine looked at her husband in astonishment, and well she might, for it was already the middle of the day. "I assure you, sir, it is almost 2 o'clock. It will be supper time before we get there." "It shall be 7 o'clock before I get to horse," declared Petruchio. "Look, whatever I speak or do, or think to do, you are always crossing me. I will not go today, and before I do it shall be whatever time I say it is." Petruchio's determined will at last gained the day, and Katherine learned that it was useless to attempt to battle with him. When in their journey to her father's house he chose to say it was the moon shining in the sky, she had to agree that it was the moon, although everyone could see it was the sun, and then when he declared immediately that it was the blessed sun, she had also to change her statement and say that it was the sun. "What you will have it named, even that it is," she said, quite tired out by his strange freaks, "and so it shall be so for Katherine." "Petruchio, go your way, the field is won," said his friend Hortensio, who was with them. When matters had come to this point with the haughty Katherine, there was not much fear that she would resume her old imperious ways. It may be remembered that, when Katherine's father ordered his younger daughter Bianca to keep in seclusion till a husband had been found for Katherine, he had provided schoolmasters to divert her tedious hours. 2 of her suitors had contrived to get into the house under the guise of masters of music and poetry, and one of them, Lucentio, she presently married, while the other, Hortensio, found consolation in a wealthy widow. To the wedding feast came Petruchio and Katherine, Hortensio and his wife, with many other guests, and during the meal a rather hot discussion sprang up as to the amiability of some of the ladies present. Petruchio remarked that his friend Hortensio was afraid of his wife, whereupon that lady retorted that he who is giddy thinks the world goes round, meaning by this that Petruchio was afraid of his own wife. Katherine was indignant at this, and even the gentle Bianca plunged rather sharply into the argument. After the ladies had retired from the table, the gentlemen still continued the discussion. Petruchio said the jest had glanced away from him, and had probably hurt Lucentio and Hortensio worse. "Now, in good sadness, son Petruchio," said Baptista, "I think you have the veriest shrew of all." "Well, I say no," said Petruchio, "so to make sure, let each one of us send to his wife, and he whose wife is most obedient to come at once when he sends for her shall win the wager which we propose." "Content," said Hortensio. "What is the wager?" 20 crowns, suggested Lucentio. 20 crowns, cried Petruchio. "I'd venture as much on my hawk or my hound, but 20 times as much on my wife." 100 then, said Lucentio. "A match, it's done," said Petruchio. "Who shall begin?" asked Hortensio. "I will," said Lucentio. So a message was first sent to Bianca, but she sent back word that she was busy and could not come. "How? She is busy and she cannot come? Is that an answer?" said Petruchio mockingly. "Ay, and a kind one too," said one of the guests. "Pray heaven, sir, your wife do not send you a worse." "I hope better," replied Petruchio. "Signor Biondello, go and entreat my wife to come to me forthwith," said Hortensio. "Oh ho, entreat her!" laughed Petruchio. "Nay then, she must needs come." "I am afraid, sir, do what you can, yours will not be entreated," retorted Hortensio. Then, as the messenger returned, "Now where's my wife?" "She says you have some goodly jest in hand, she will not come. She bids you go to her." "Worse and worse, she will not come," said Petruchio. "Intolerable, not to be endured. Grumio, go to your mistress, say I command her to come to me." "I know her answer," said Hortensio. "What?" "She will not come." But the next moment in walked Katherine. "What is your will, sir, that you send for me?" "Where is your sister and Hortensio's wife?" asked Petruchio. "They are sitting talking by the parlour fire." "Go fetch them hither. If they refuse to come, beat them forth to their husbands. Away, I say, and bring them straight here." "Here is a wonder if you talk of a wonder," said Lucentio, as Katherine obediently departed. "And so it is. I wonder what it bodes," said Hortensio. "Marry, peace it bodes, and love, and quiet life. In short, everything that is sweet and happy," said Petruchio. "Now, fair befall you, good Petruchio," said Baptista. "You have won the wager, and I will add to it 20,000 crowns. Another dowry to another daughter, for Katherine is changed as if she had never been." "Nay," said Petruchio, "I will win my wager better yet, and show more signs of her obedience. See where she comes and brings your forward wives as prisoners to her womanly persuasion." Then, as Katherine entered with Bianca and Hortensio's wife, he continued, "Katherine, that cap of yours does not become you. Off with that bauble, throw it under foot." Greatly to the disgust of the other two wives, Katherine instantly obeyed. "Lord, let me never have a cause to sigh till I be brought to such a silly pass," said Hortensio's wife, and even the gentle Bianca exclaimed with equal disdain, "Fie, what sort of foolish duty do you call it this?" "I wish your duty were as foolish too," said her husband. "The wisdom of your duty, fair Bianca, has cost me 100 crowns since supper time." "The more fool you for wagering on my duty," was Bianca's unkind reply. Then Petruchio bade Katherine tell the other headstrong women what duty they owed their husbands, and this she straightway did, in a speech of such wonderful grace and submission that all her hearers were amazed. As for her husband, he was delighted with the result of his somewhat rough schooling. "Come, Kate," he said, "good night," and he retired triumphantly with his now loving and devoted wife.